Process manufacturing companies often deal with real-world scenarios where the components they enter in for a batch might be slightly different from time to time than the actual recipe calls for. Life happens, and when an experienced operator realizes they should add more or less of a component than the exact recipe or bill of materials calls for, you want to make sure that the correct accounting is taking place on the back end without having to manually adjust each transaction accordingly. To solve for that real-world scenario, Consule Solutions has YieldCraft, a built-in NetSuite solution that identifies and accounts for actual component yield. For this demo, we'll show a cheese manufacturing operation that's producing 100 pounds of mozzarella cheese and needs to properly account for the components used during the production process. To orient ourselves with the solution, notice that we're in native NetSuite. The NetSuite records we're going to focus on today are the manufacturing work order completion, inventory items, and then look at the GL impact of YieldCraft. Let's jump into the NetSuite records to take a look. The first will be our manufacturing work order. For this demo, I've went ahead and ran through a complete work order of 100 pounds of mozzarella cheese that was planned for production. Let's take a look at some of the data here. We have a work order 1443 to make 100 pounds of mozzarella cheese. The transaction in NetSuite, which signifies a completed work order, is a work order completion, so let's jump into that related record. Now, the first thing to notice here is our work order quantity. We were supposed to create 100 pounds. However, if we hover down and to the right, we can see that we actually created 99. Anytime you're dealing with chemical processes like in cheese creation, this is bound to happen. You yield less or more than anticipated. Herein lies the problem. We need to tell the system our true component yield. I'll go to the top and select Enter Component Yield. I need to enter in the true quantity of what was used to make this 99 pounds of cheese. In NetSuite, when you do a work order completion for less or more than the amount originally called for, it arithmetically adjusts for the components to be used by default. These numbers for the required quantity column are a small fraction less than the quantity that would have been required for 100 pounds of cheese because remember, we only actually completed 99. Without YieldCraft, we would have to tell someone in accounting to make these manual journal entries for each individual ingredient after the fact. A very tedious process. With YieldCraft, the operators can say what they used quickly and easily. Here, we used more milk than called for because the milk came in cold from the tanker. These kinds of things happen. So I'll enter in the actual consumed quantity, and then yield quantity will automatically appear. This negative 14.5 means that YieldCraft needs to take 14.5 pounds of milk inventory from a stock. Because of that, I'll select Enter Inventory Detail. In this pop-up box, I'll enter in the quantity in pounds of milk that I took from a certain stock. If this were a lot-numbered inventory item, I would select the lot here. In this example, I'm just pulling from stock and entering the weight. I'll do this exercise for every component used in the production process. Let's save the component yield and take a look at the real financial impact. Let's view the GL impact of the inventory records in NetSuite. I've selected two for this demo. The first is the whole milk, and the second is the starter culture, two main ingredients used in mozzarella cheese production. For whole milk, in our purchasing inventory tab, we can see that the average cost of the milk is 22 cents per pound. In the starter culture item, we can see that it costs $80 a pound. Now, let's view the GL impact. The extra inventory that was used for the 4 components in the production of our cheese are listed with the appropriate credits. The debit is then posted in aggregate as $13.22 of total components were debited to the material excess consumption account. And that's it. The value of YieldCraft is in its ability to carry over the calculated costs of the variance that was used in production in real time as soon as the work order is completed on the shop floor, leaving finance teams more time to solve complex issues rather than manually adding journal entries to account for everyday fluctuations that happen in production.